Greetings, and welcome to Carolingia's Test Kitchen. In this episode, I will be making to boil quails from The Good Huswifes Iewell by Thomas Dawson. The recipe is to boil quails. First, put them into a pot with sweet broth and set them on the fire. Then take a carrot root and cut them in pieces and put into the pot. Then take parsley and sweet herbs and chop them a little and put them into the pot. Then take cinnamon, ginger, nutmegs, and pepper and put in a little verjuice and so season it with salt, serve them upon sops, and garnish them with fruit. That seems fairly straightforward. In fact, more straightforward than many recipes. Shall we give it a try? Quail, sweet broth, carrot root, parsley and sweet herbs, verjus, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and pepper, salt. The recipe starts by putting the quails into a pot with sweet broth and setting them onto the fire. For sweet broth, I'm using chicken broth. In another recipe, he calls for strong broth, which he says is made from beef or mutton and has sage and rosemary in it, and some other strongly flavored herbs. And I noticed that some of the other recipes, which have more delicately flavored ingredients, like the quails, like pigeons, like an artichoke recipe, all call for sweet broth. So I decided it should be something more lightly flavored, thus I'm using chicken broth. Since quail are expensive, I'm only using 2. Then we take a carrot root, cut into pieces, and put it into the pot. Then take parsley and sweet herbs, chop them a little, and put them into the pot. I'm using, besides parsley, thyme, savory, and lovage. Then he says to take cinnamon, ginger, nutmegs, and pepper. And to put in a little verjus. Verjus, or verjus, is made from the juice of unripe grapes or crab apples. This is grapes. It has a sharp, bright flavor. It's not as strong as wine or vinegar. A teaspoon of salt and another 1/4 cup of verjus. The quails are done, and now it's time to serve them. Dawson says to serve them upon sops, so I have here a slice of stale bread, pour some broth over, and garnish them with fruit. Here are some little strawberries from my garden. There we go, garnished, more or less. Boiled quails. Shall we see how it is? That's very good. The quail is nice and juicy. It's easy to overcook such tiny birds, but about 15 minutes of simmering seemed to be just about right. And since they were being boiled, simmered, in broth, there was really no way they could dry out like they could if you were baking them. I can taste the spices in the quail meat. It's really nice. And the broth itself is surprisingly spicy. The cinnamon and the pepper really come forward. I suppose the ginger too. It just sort of all combines to make a sharp, spicy taste. And I can taste the verjus. So I'm really glad I added more. It's got this really pleasant sourness. So definitely serve the broth along with the birds. I'm sure it would scale up. I'm not sure if it would scale up feast level. Also, quails are not inexpensive, and there's not much meat on them, so I'm not sure it'd be worthwhile there. But if you were making sort of a fancy, intimate dinner for friends, I would recommend this. The prep time was minimal. Chop the carrots, chop the herbs, and then basically throw it all in the pot and let it simmer. You could do a bunch of other stuff while it was cooking. I would recommend it. If you can get quails, give this a try. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Carolingia's Test Kitchen.